the first thing in the conversation that I have is put myself in their shoes.
Yeah.
If I put myself in their shoes and I'm listening to what I have to say, it better be something that I truly believe in. I think it's important that when you're talking to someone, the customer is always first. We know that that's old school, but it's important for you to understand, wow, whatever I'm going to say or whatever I'm going to pitch or whatever I'm going to sort of put in play here, if I don't sincerely believe it myself, then it's not going to work.
This is the Chamber Chat Podcast, the show dedicated to chamber professionals to spark ideas and to get actionable tips and strategies to better serve your members and community. Hello, Chamber Champions. Welcome to Chamber Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burton, and it's my goal here on the podcast to introduce you to people and ideas to better help you serve your chamber members and your community. Today's guest brings 3 decades of chamber leadership across Pittsburgh's economic and business development landscape. Chris Heck is the president and CEO of the Pittsburgh Airport Area Chamber of Commerce, where he's been instrumental in driving growth and innovation. Under his leadership, the PAACC has seen a remarkable expansion, and he's the visionary behind the Airport Area Corporate Partnership, an initiative dedicated to advancing economic development throughout the region. Chris's executive experience spans top-tier organizations, including the Pittsburgh Technology the Pittsburgh Technology Council, Marsh USA, K&L Gates LLP, Fifth Third Bank, and the SMC Business Councils. A proud graduate of Florida Atlantic University with the BA in Business Administration and Management, Chris also serves as a second-class petty officer in the U.S. Coast Guard Reserves. Deeply committed to community service, Chris currently chairs the Allegheny County Airport Authority Foundation and holds board roles with institutions like the Pittsburgh Technical College, Robert Morris University, and Rosedale Technical College. He's also a proud member of Leadership Pittsburgh Class 35. Chris Heck is a dynamic leader, a seasoned strategist, and a passionate advocate for relational prosperity. Let's dive into this incredible conversation insights with Chris Heck. Chris, I'm excited to have you with us today on Chamber Chat Podcast.
All right,
Love to.
Brandon, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. As we craft our bios, you never really get a chance for someone to recite them back to you in a public forum. So
Right?
it was kind of cool to listen to that and look at my background from where I stand right now. So thank you for that. But it's a pleasure to
You're
be here
welcome.
with you.
We're glad to have you. I like asking the guests that I have on the show to share something interesting about themselves so we can get to know you a little bit better before we dive into our conversation.
Well, totally unrelated to the chamber world, you mentioned my collegiate experience with Florida Atlantic University, and as a lover of the ocean and the sea and the water, yes, I was in the Coast Guard for 6 years and parlayed a lot of that to diving and fishing and living in the Keys. If anyone has ever had the opportunity to visit the Florida Keys, it's something. But I did something very unique with a petty officer friend of mine. I went skydiving in the Keys, which was very, very interesting, and jumping out of a plane at 3,500 feet with water everywhere and land a very short strip of land to land on. It was
Yeah.
both challenging and one of the most exciting things I've ever done in my life. So that was a little bit unique.
That is unique. That's something I hope to never do, but I'm glad you did. I've done the
I
indoor
wasn't
skydiving.
I was in my early 20s, Brandon, when I did that. So that was a long time ago.
Yeah. That's great. And thank you for your service too. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Well, tell us a little bit about your chamber. Help give us an idea of
Yeah.
size, staff, scope of work, budget, just to set the stage for our
Yeah.
conversation
Yeah.
today?
I'd love to. Knowing my audience is a chamber leadership audience, most of you are familiar with the basic building blocks of a chamber of commerce. And when I was recruited to come here in 2017 is when I came here. I never thought that a chamber of commerce would be where I would end up. Okay. I had some great association management work in the past, but I never really thought that this would be where my final landing pad would be. And the Pittsburgh Airport Area Chamber of Commerce is a 20-year-old chamber. So we're ingrained in the community here. And when I learned about what the opportunities were to lead this organization, I was thrilled and humbled, if you will, to be asked to do that. So the chamber is not the largest in the East Coast, if you will. We hover around 850 companies. And as you know, as chamber leaders, that number tends to go up and down. But one of the unique things that we have is we're situated in a high growth, high density corporate area of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that has a population growth of probably 2 or 3% annually right now. There's unlike any other area, we're very fortunate to be in this area that has an international airport as the nucleus of the 31 communities that we represent. So when you have something like that, which is an anchor business that offers critical mass for companies, for members, and things like that, you're in a good situation. And we know that the airport itself is really part of some of our success. And one of the very first things that I did, getting back to the chamber a little bit, we're small in terms of staff. We have four and a half 4.5 employees. One is part time, but we've got about 7 different committees, and that's where we're really able to grow and manage growth of double digits every month. And it's unique as I go across the state and the region and speak to other chamber leaders. I don't know of another chamber that has sustained double digit growth over the last 2 years. We're talking 11, 12, sometimes 18 members. So we're very, very fortunate to see that growth. Our chamber has a fabulous reputation of being the type of organization that really embraces the companies that we represent, but more importantly, the community that we represent, and that is very, very important to us. I'm sort of the spokesperson in the media, in economic development circles, as the guy to go to in the airport corridor. It's called at his 31 communities that we represent, and we have a great mix of companies. And I always say, a lot of these chambers that are around us have the majority is retail. And to me, a chamber that has 80 retail is not, really what I want to be where the business is driving the local economy. And that is where we are. We have energy companies like you have in Texas, the energy companies, because of the natural gas excavation that we have here with the Marcellus Shale. We have so many things going on that are diverse, and it really makes a great mix of companies that we represent, and it just makes my job a lot easier.
Yeah. It does in some regards, right? And others we'll talk about as we get into our episode here. But that definitely helps to give that perspective that, where you guys sit in the region and the communities and that whole outlook. So today we're going to dive in deeper on just overall just chamber management. How do you manage that growth and retaining those members and just chamber leadership in general? And we'll dive into that as soon as we get back from this quick break.
Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Rose.
And we're the founders of At My Community, a mobile app that can be customized to meet the unique needs of your Chamber of Commerce.
When we started At My Community, we envisioned a tool that would help communities thrive by simplifying communication and enhancing engagement. Chambers of Commerce face unique challenges, and we're here to help you tackle them.
At My Community helps the Evergreen Area Chamber of Commerce to create an app that keeps tourists informed even when their office is closed. They provide 24/7 access to local business information, which helps support the local economy and community engagement.
In Rocky Mountain House, we helped Rocky Chamber create an app with dynamic itineraries and digital resources for tourists, increasing local business engagement. The app has become an essential tool for the community, promoting events and boosting visibility for local merchants.
Today, we empower more than 200 chambers of commerce, campgrounds, and RV resorts to streamline communication, informing members about events, sharing business updates, and providing a digital hub for the community, all in one convenient app.
When you partner with At My Community, our team works closely with you to create an app that meets your chamber's unique needs. As your community grows, our app evolves with you. We are here to ensure you engage effectively with your members and streamline your operations.
Schedule a demo today at atmycommunity.com.
We can't wait to meet you.
Are you ready to take your organization's funding to the next level? Hi, I'm Clint Neesmith, CEO of Resource Development Group. As a Chamber of Commerce or Economic Development Organization leader, I know you understand the value of working with experts who understand your world. And that's exactly what RDG does best. For over 30 years, RDG has specialized in fundraising for EDOs and chambers. We bring cutting-edge strategies tailored to your organization, whether you're just starting out or gearing up for yet another new funding cycle. Importantly, our firm executives are hands-on from start to finish, from the feasibility study to the successful conclusion of your fundraising campaign, and our team brings deep industry roots and national expertise to every engagement. No matter the size of your community, RDG delivers data-driven, innovative revenue solutions, reinforcing ROI to investors and making sure your vision becomes reality. At RDG, we proudly build organizations that build communities. Visit us today at rdgfundraising.com and let us partner with you, building a stronger future for your organization and the community you are working to grow and develop.
All right, Chris, we're back. As I mentioned before the break, we're talking chamber leadership. And you mentioned some of the things that you guys are blessed with there in your region and there in Pennsylvania. Growth, you'd mentioned it makes your job easier, and it does. But it also comes with challenges too,
Yeah.
as we're familiar with. Me being in Texas, we see the growth and the challenges that come with it as well. But if you could talk to us about what it's like to manage the growth while also paying attention to those current members and being able to retain those relationships and memberships long term. What's your approach like? And hopefully don't make it too complicated.
Yeah, no, and it's no secret. I think a lot of your audience probably does, depending on their maybe length of service, if you will, with their particular chamber. You figured out that, to be really hands-on. Let me just back up a minute. So I'm the president and CEO. I do have an executive director. I do have Okay, so a lot of chambers just have that one level of executive director and then maybe a membership director and an events and an office manager. That we went a little bit different because I'm very fortunate to have an executive director that's been here for 24 years. So
There you
she
go.
knows all the ins and outs about and that gives me the opportunity to be extremely hands-on with our members, okay? If there, as an example of that is, we decided not to have a director of membership sales. We're going to give that a try. And we're in our second year of not paying a full-time membership salesperson, because between myself and our executive director, we feel that we can manage the incoming. We could do that sort of that sales work on our own without a true sales professional, whatever it is. And that seems to be working quite well. I will say we stretch ourselves pretty thin when it comes to managing the growth. And what do I mean by managing the growth? Well, when you have 12 new members every month, you have to make sure that your process for onboarding, that critical time when you bring those new members on, it's so critical that first year. Actually, the first 6 months is critical to the retention that you're hoping to get for the next few years out of these, right? So
Right.
we have an onboarding process that I feel is second to none, with our ambassador committee, with myself, with handwritten notes, a membership box, all sorts of things, and phone call and a meeting from me to welcome those companies on board. Again, very, very hands-on. And we stress to the new members that we understand why you joined, and we're here to help you connect, make some contacts, and you're not on an island by yourself once you send us that membership check. So if I could stress anything, it is a lot of work, right, to manage the growth. We seem to have a good formula in doing that, which is hands-on and making sure that every phone call is answered, every email is answered. If we started the whole conversation by this whole thing is not rocket science. We're able to make a decision if someone is maybe just, they're unhappy maybe with something that we do. We all have the ability to fix that problem, whether it's extending their membership another 3-6 months, or offering them a few events that they could come to at no charge if they bring a guest and things like that. So even though we've been around for a long time, I've implemented a culture here that whatever my staff thinks is best to keep that member happy, we will do. And I think they all understand that, and it's been something that we've kind of lived with. And I think that's one of the other areas that make our retention level of 87% pretty high.
Those are some creative ideas with retention that you talked about. I've not heard of other chambers that will extend maybe 3 more months to help a member
Absolutely.
who wasn't satisfied
Yeah,
with
I mean,
some certain
realistically, Brandon, is it any skin off our back if we extend someone's, membership 3 more months or whatever it is? No, it's
No.
not. And so, there's I'm going to talk a little bit about affinity programs, because everybody's had, people come in and pitch an affinity program, a non-membership revenue
Undues.
stream, non-dues stream, or whatever it is. We're very, very selective of those companies that we partner with. And I personally start those programs with an introduction from me. I just did 2 today to a new energy provider that we're going to give a shot with for the next year, because we think that this is the right fit for us. And I've committed to making about 20 introductions to high use energy use companies. And so far, every one of them has said, sure, bring them in, introduce me to them. And it's a little bit more hand holding than most, but it's worth it. It's definitely
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah. And if it all ends up being a win-win-win, that's what matters, right?
That's right. That's right.
A lot of times those affinity programs, you really have to be careful and examine them and just look at the details before you get too far along.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to cut them loose if they're just, they talk the talk at the beginning of maybe as a year cycle or whatever. And then you're looking at the reports every month and you're saying to yourself, really, you said that you were going to bring in X and I don't even see the activity that you're doing out there. You think, so I've had the I've been in the position to do that
Yeah.
more often than
Yeah.
I would like to.
Unfortunately. I wanted to circle back to your onboarding process. You went down kind of a list quickly of different things that you do
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
onboarding process, but I think that's so important for that long-term retention and being able to do it in a way that's sustainable when you are seeing a high amount of growth. I can see where it could be difficult where you commit to you had handwritten notes as one of the things you mentioned and I could
It's
see,
so unique, Brandon. So, just to give you a little synopsis of our onboarding process, a new member comes in, the membership gets processed through accounting, receipts are sent, and all that other stuff. Within 48 hours of us receiving the application and the payment for that, our executive director, um, a phone call goes out to them. As soon as that phone call of welcoming them to our chamber and thanking them for joining our chamber, I'm the next call. So now the CEO and president is basically doing the same thing, getting to know the person. And after a quick thank you, for joining, I ask, tell me about your business. I don't want you to listen to what I have to say. You've joined the
yeah.
chamber already,
This is
right?
about you.
I want to hear why you joined. I want to hear about your business. I want to hear about some opportunities that you might be thinking about of connectivity with our members, whatever, and they really appreciate, oh my God, the president of the chamber called me and is asking me about our business. The people love to talk, right?
Yeah.
So those are very, very two simple things. Then the entire list of, let's call it 10 new members, goes directly to our ambassador committee. The ambassador committee of 23 people, they meet monthly. They take that list and they distribute each new member company to an ambassador. So an ambassador now is assigned to that company, but every ambassador sends a handwritten note welcoming them on their own station or their stationery. If it's PNC Bank, we're
Yeah.
welcoming you to the chamber, whatever it is. So now they're getting a bunch, and they also get that chamber welcome kit, that box. I don't know if that's a little old school, but there's an actual box that they get with a bunch of stuff, the bylaws, the board list, calendar of events, some affinity program things or whatever for, whatever. But it's, and a little plaque. I'm a proud member of the chamber.
Yeah.
And with, so they get, then they get a call on the operations side to make sure that everyone from their company that they want to be a part of the account and get the invitation is listed, not just that
Yeah.
one person that sent out.
Not just the primary rep, but yeah,
Yeah,
get the
it
HR
goes,
person or the
the
accounting or
primary is the
sales.
primary, yes, but you could add 10 other people to that account because we understand that from a revenue generation side, we put a lot of quality in our events. That's where we're able, if someone's spending 400 membership dues, that's nice. That really doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
It's nice to have that revenue. The key is engaging them from the beginning. And now you get 3 or 4 employees every month or every quarter spending 50, 60, 80 bucks or whatever on events. And that's where you start to see
Yeah.
I try to tell that we had a whole sales team before. We had a sales manager, we had sales reps, we had all that stuff. And I tried to tell them that that the importance, the model that we have on the revenue side is not about that one shot of the company that sends us, Jimmy John's sandwiches. They want a ribbon cutting, right? So they
Yeah.
join
They do the ones for the ribbon cutting, and
and
that's
they do
it.
that
Yeah.
one thing, and you never hear back from them. I mean, what does that get us? So I think you understand that is
But
where,
it's a
and
great strategy.
we're all on the same page with that. And we have had members come to us and say, you know what? We belong to 5 or 6 different organizations. Never have we had an onboarding process that was so personalized and authentic as yours was. And
Yeah.
and I think that really helps.
Yeah. I think it's a great strategy making sure that their list gets built out beyond their primary contact, because a lot of times a primary contact maybe is not the one that gets super involved. But then, a couple of years down the road, when they're making a decision, maybe they have a harder financial year and they're trying to decide, do we stay with the chamber? And if
Yeah,
they've got a list of 8 different employees that are involved, and you got 6 of them advocating for involvement with the chamber because they see the value,
yeah,
then that
that's
makes
right.
it
That's
a
right,
whole lot
Brandon.
better just to
Exactly.
stick around. Yeah,
So
I love that.
the last thing that's a little bit new, and you and I spoke offline about this a little bit, is, we're in an area where higher education, technology in particular. We're in the backyard of Carnegie Mellon University and the University of Pittsburgh. So with that comes the technology boom. We have
Yeah.
so many autonomous vehicles. We have all this different technology for robotics and AI. So I was like, how do we how do we incorporate some of the things to our chamber to make us relevant, to
Got to
make
show
us
you're leading,
unique,
right?
make us
Yeah.
different? And that's where we engaged with our friend Craig Turner. And I said, look, I joined a chamber. He goes, I've got a very simple AI related platform. They join, they log on to this AI platform. They answer a few questions and they get what we call a value roadmap. And that value roadmap tells them, okay, you've answered these 5 or 6 questions. Here is your roadmap of maximizing the value that you can get out of this chamber. And that report goes instantaneously back to them. We get a copy, and all of a sudden, the guy's like, wow, I just joined this chamber. 5 days later, I'm filling out an AI questionnaire and I've got a value roadmap, that will give me some suggestions on how to maximize the value that I'm paying for it in this chamber. So it's a nice little modern trinket, and it seems to be working pretty well.
Well, and it's important. Like you said, you're a hub of innovation and technology, and as a chamber, beyond just being relevant, you have to show that you're leading the way, that you understand the technology, the implications of technology and AI in their business. And look, we're using it too. You're
Right,
leading by
right.
example.
And who would
Yeah.
ever think? I mean, a chamber of commerce, there's thousands across the country, right? Some of them are very small and some of them are very old school, where you join a chamber and you go to a local restaurant and you have a beer and you meet some insurance broker, and that's
And
basically
that's
all
the
you
end of the
do.
story. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. You've hit on some great points here, and as far as the managing the growth and leading into that longer term retention and really just leading out. I was hoping we'd have time to touch a little bit more on the committees, because I think when you talk about leading a chamber, you're effectively using committees, it sounds like, and
Yes.
that makes your job a little bit easier. Do you want to take a minute or two and touch on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
and the
We
implications?
the largest is the ambassador committee. I look at our board as a committee as well, because we lean on them often for just a lot of different things. We have a government relations and advocacy committee. So the larger companies do have that community relations and government relations director. So I'm the one who's doing the work with our elected officials on a regular basis. So it's very important that that committee understands what our priorities are for advocacy. So we do have that. We have about 5 different signature events. Each one of those signature events has its own committee. So the golf outing, for instance, just to give an idea, there's 15 members of the golf outing committee. They do everything from ideas of additional revenue generation to getting auction items for the golf outing. So we don't have
Yeah.
to do that. And then there's 4 or 5 other events that do that. We're introducing this year 2 new networks. One's a peer network, which is a HR peer network. So we're going out to those companies that have a dedicated HR professional and saying, hey, you've been a member of our chamber. Here's an opportunity for you as the HR director to meet with your peers and talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah.
So we're not going to drive that. There's no money involved. It's just, and I'll tell you what, HR people love to get out of the office and meet with peers and exchange ideas. The other peer network is the sales and marketing peer network, which totally goes off the rails sometimes. Because you get a bunch of sales guys in a room.
Yeah.
So those are a couple of networks. They're not committees necessarily, but we're introducing those. A marketing and communications committee, and that helps me because now you have social media that everybody's talking about, right? And how do you manage that correctly? And so that committee does everything from design to does the posting and does a lot of that stuff. So that really
Yeah.
helps. So you can see where we go with these committees, that we have a very small staff, but the committees really, really help.
As we start to wrap, for those listening who are wanting to take their organization up to the next level, what kind of tip or action item would you leave with them as they strive towards that goal?
Wow. I think this is kind of more of a life lesson than it is a lesson in managing or leading a chamber. And I just had this conversation yesterday, so the timing is pretty good. I do have a philosophy that the first thing in the conversation that I have is put myself in their shoes.
Yeah.
If I put myself in their shoes and I'm listening to what I have to say, it better be something that I truly believe in. I think it's important that when you're talking to someone, the customer is always first. We know that. That's old school. But it's important for you to understand, wow, whatever I'm going to say or whatever I'm going to pitch or whatever I'm going to sort of put in play here, if I don't sincerely believe it myself, then it's not going to work. So that seems to that seems in putting myself in the shoes of that person on the other side of the table, right? And
Yeah.
is it something that is truly honest and effective? And would I buy that? Would I
Right.
buy because we're all selling, right? So would I buy what I'm, listening to? And I think my dad told me that. My dad was a salesman all of his life. And he's like, hey, if you don't buy it yourself, nobody's going to buy it. So that's just something that I've used and tried to. The other thing is chamber membership is not rocket science. It's very, very basic business development, marketing, connectivity, support of a great organization that you should believe in. Again, I think the integrity of what we do as chamber leaders is pretty good to hold on to. You never really question whether or not you're selling a bunch of crap or are you really, really passionate about what you do. And I'm pretty passionate. about chamber membership, because if it's done right, it really does help
Yeah,
someone's
can make a big
business. It
impact.
really does make a difference.
Yeah. Very good. Well, Chris, I like asking everyone I have on the show about the future of chambers. So, how do you see the future of
Ooh,
chambers of commerce and their purpose going forward?
you know, uh, I'd like to say that the sky's the limit with the Chamber of Commerce. Um, I sometimes look at what the future is of the way we do business, the future of how people interact with each other. I have 4 children, and I'm the first one to say, get off your phone and just talk to people, face to face and all that. And you see these trends with AI and with these different things that are so much different than our generation, would use, because I think so. I hope that chambers of commerce continue to add value and add benefit. I'm not 100% sure that in the future we're going to see as much as we have seen over, when was the last time that you were in a room with 200 people, 250 people listening to someone who was really, really interesting? It's
Well,
not every day, right? It's not
no.
every day that you're able to do that. And that's what I'm afraid we're kind of, as a society, as a business community, might be moving away from. And that's scary to think of, because that's what a chamber of commerce does bring. It brings that personal, you know, opportunity to learn something,
Yeah.
where a lot of people right now are thinking, oh, I could learn that online. I could do that. I could literally do that on something, not as personal. So I'd love to say, I think, the Chamber of Commerce world is absolutely gonna, break every record and do everything like that. I hope so. But there are some variables that we never thought would be there,
Right.
right? That are there now, which that old handshake and that whole, hey, Bill, I'd like you to meet Jim. He's a great so and so. He could probably save you a lot of money. That whole thing, you
Right.
know, is is what I hope continues.
Which is scary because that's a reflection on society as a whole. And
That's right.
you want to see society hold up. So we'll hope for the best and work on preserving it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know we're getting ready to wrap up, and I don't know who's going to be listening, but again, my name is Chris Hack. I run the Pittsburgh Airport Area Chamber of Commerce, in about 11 miles from downtown Pittsburgh. Uh, 412-264-6270 is our number here. Our website is, if you ever are in the area or would like to chat about anything, I'm happy to spend some time with you and learn about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, make sure we get that in our show notes for this episode and make it easy for listeners to reach out and connect if they have some further questions or want to learn more about how you're doing things. But
Please
Chris,
do.
this has
Yeah.
been great having you on the show. I'm glad it
It's
worked
been
out with
fun.
our schedules. Yeah, this has been
Yeah.
a lot of fun and covered a lot of good ground. So thank
Good.
you.
Good, Brandon. Thank you for having me.
You
Appreciate it.
bet.
If you are a chamber professional, be sure to subscribe to Chamber Chat Podcast on your favorite podcast app or now on YouTube, so you never miss a new episode. New episodes are released each week and delivered right to you. If you're finding value in the podcast, please take a moment to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. It really helps others discover the show. And most importantly, share Chamber Chat Podcast with your colleagues in the industry so we can continue to grow and strengthen the chamber community together.
This episode is brought to you by Riverside. If you've ever thought about starting a podcast for your chamber or your business, one of the biggest challenges is recording high-quality audio and video, especially when you and your guest aren't in the same room. Riverside is the platform I use to record every episode of the show. It gives you studio-quality audio and video right from your browser, automatically backs up your files, and even creates clips you can use on social media. It's designed to make podcasting simple and professional without the headaches. If you're ready to launch your podcast or upgrade your recordings, head over to chamberchatpodcast.com/riverside to get started today. Again, that's chamberchatpodcast.com/riverside, the same tool I trust to bring you these conversations every week.